how does that pricing thing work? Because some pieces sell and they're really ugly, and some people pay them a lot of money, and then there's good art that doesn't really sell that well.
I want to jump
in. Jump in, sir.
But when it comes down to money, because this is the biggest question for artists, what constitutes a certain price? When you really do your homework on it, it really is the reputation of the artist more than anything. That artist has made a name for themselves. A lot of years of work in the industry. The industry understands and they know who this artist is. They followed him or her for years all around the world or whatever he's done or she's done. So that price, people start to stamp a number saying, okay, if Floyd does this, we know if he just puts just a stroke across, it's going to be worth this. They already have a formula where this is already built out here. They start to know around wherever your audience is how much your work is worth. The actual art collectors, they have a formula for this. So you just can't make a number up. You just can't come off the street and say, I want $10,000. They said, well, who are you? We never even heard of you before. We don't care about how good the painting is. It doesn't work that way. It is really based on personal reputation of who you are. So once you have that name, that's just like if I get, years and years and years and I get much older in this business and and I don't want to paint it as broad and good as I did before, my name will still constitute big money because they'll say, well, that's still a Hamilton. And they will authenticate the signature. And those are what collectors are after. They want the real thing. Doesn't matter who they are. But I mean like that. As long as it is the person that they want to put the money behind. So it really is the name and reputation. It really is.
And I think also from a business perspective, or I guess from a market perspective, lots of artists understand how to build their market.
That's right.
And I think when you build your market to a certain point to where you're selling work at a certain level, that's much different than someone who painted one piece. And not to say that your friend in that instance hadn't painted more pieces, but that's different than someone who paints a piece and says, I want to sell this for this.
That's right.
It's a different scenario. It's a different, I think, market interaction, I think. So going back to what Neal was saying is that I think when artists have a collection and they have a series of work and they have put themselves in the industry in a certain way, then they are, at least as it relates to that ecosystem, their work sells at a certain level because that's what they've created around, that's the ecosystem that they've created around that work.
That's right.
And so I think like that's sometimes the difference between, or I guess that's the difference with how some artists approach selling their work. Whether it's a piece, whether it's letting the market dictate it. I think some artists understand how to really build their market.
Talent is not enough by itself.
No, it's not.
Because in the music industry, you have one-hit wonders.
Exactly.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so why can't I have a one-hit painting?
You can't get lucky.
But also within and you may be able to talk to this also, I think even when you see one-hit wonders, there is still an infrastructure around that one-hit wonder to make that one-hit wonder pop that one time.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So normally they are in a scenario where even the people who are behind understand this artist has one hit in them. And we're going to maximize this one hit for as much as we can. And if there's something else that happens after that, great for everyone involved. But even the people who are behind the curtain understand this may be an artist that may not have a long shelf life.
That's right.
But they have the infrastructure muscle to put their work in enough places to where they can recoup whatever investment they had plus whatever profit they can manufacture.
This guy's good. We actually have that at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's actually an exhibit dedicated to one-hit wonders.
One-hit wonders?
No, really. The whole room is one-hit wonders. And you'll remember almost half of them. You're like, I remember that. We bought the record. But it's very true, like Floyd said. That's what it is. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's all about that soul group you're in. And sometimes that magic only strikes one time. Of course, we all want to go more. But sometimes that big magic is that one time. That's just like somebody writing Star Wars. Bam. Okay? It's so big, you don't need to do another movie.
But reputation has a lot with workers and artists. The bigger your reputation, the more you're going to get paid for your work. Right. The more you can ask for your work.
That's right.
I have certain writers that won't submit stories to my anthologies. They like them, but they're at a level where they feel like if you want me to contribute to this anthology, you're going to have to pay me a certain amount of money and stuff like that. So my anthologies end up being great places for first-time writers to to get an opportunity. When it comes to artists, in the industry that I'm in, the artists look at what they're charging per hour. How many hours is going to take them to do a piece of work. You've got like I said, the brand new people on DeviantArt that will do a pretty decent amount of work for a certain price. But then you've got people like one of the guys I know, Eric Wilkinson. Eric is a great artist. He's done creative design for the Blue Man Group. He's done stuff with what's the name of that? It's this company that does a lot of production stuff for the guy who did Lord of the Rings. And he's considered one of the top artists in the industry. Mm-hmm. The top guys will charge for cover art $3,000 for the average publisher. For somebody like me, they'll charge me $1,500. You know, I'll be lucky if I make $1,500 off of 5 books. You know, so those are I respect what they I respect their their hustle and what they do, but some artists I just can't afford. There was another guy that I talked to. I can't remember his name. He's out of Houston, but he politely told me when I started talking to him, basically in so many words, "You can't afford me." He was nice about it, but because he explained to me. I don't know if any of you guys play video games. This is one game called God of War, and it has this particular character. He said a friend of mine did that character, and Sony hired him to do it. They paid him for about an hour. He brings designs to them, and they don't like it. They send them back, but they're still paying him. He said ultimately this guy got paid $100,000 to create that character. So
I need that job.
Exactly. So it's so you get from my standpoint, working with artists, I understand that. As a personal buying art personally, which my wife and I, we collect some artwork. We buy what we like. But it's like you say, what we spend on a piece of artwork is going to be dependent on the connection we have to it. If we see something that we feel like really resonates with us, and then we'll go that extra mile and pay that extra money because it's something that we really have a strong feeling for.
But there's 2 parts of that. It becomes the commercial world, which you can charge hourly. Mm-hmm. It's easy to nail it down how many hours you're going to put in to make this project work for this book cover. But in fine art, it's another ballgame. Yeah. It's completely different. So once again, there's 2 different formulas again. Yeah. Fine art is a whole nother business.
Mm-hmm. And then, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add that oftentimes we have to consider that in some instances, depending on the artist, depending on who's buying it, that there's also an investment component. That's right. So if there are certain artists that are within the marketplace where they are trending in a certain way, paying $5,000, even $10,000 for that piece, if the investor, if someone who's acting as an investor is thinking about this as a long-term investment to hold as a tangible liquid asset, then that piece at $10,000 may appreciate depending on who the artist is. And there are people who really do approach it from that perspective. Yeah. Can I buy this artist's work now in a way that it will appreciate later on? Absolutely. So they don't often buy with just an emotional connection. No. There's also the fiscal component. That's what they think about. Is this something that's going to be worth something going forward?
So then it's safe to say that an artist should have a body of work. Number one, to gauge his talent and marketability for later. Mm-hmm. You can't just go off of.
No,
I won't even say that. I mean, I think being here at WonderRoot, we see a lot of artists who work with us because not only are they technically proficient, but they want their art to say something in the larger context. So there are plenty of artists who, while I'm sure they would like to make more money doing their art, there are some artists who are creating for a purpose. So maybe there's some advocacy attached to their work. Yeah. So it's not just about the marketplace. There are some artists who want their art to stand for something that will then influence society in a way that may not have a price tag that you can readily attach to that. So there's that other component that goes along with the market piece that I believe that when we talk about art and the financial transactions that take place, that kind of gets overlooked.
And that can be defined as success too, right?
Yeah. Okay.
The fact that you put a message out that makes a difference in someone's life, or aids the movement of something.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Success.
I'm a prime example of that with Paint Out Loud. When I worked at the Rock Hall as the photographer, I said, guess what? Okay, I'm doing a great job making a lot of money doing this, but I'm an artist. They didn't want to hear that. They really didn't want to hear that I was an artist. I'm like, I am an artist. I can do that. They didn't want to hear it. Just keep taking your pictures. I'm like, okay. So now I have to move away. That's how it really works. You got to move away from home. I've been down in Atlanta about 4 years now. Now, the biggest catering company in Cleveland, linked with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, just contracted a big showcase of my artwork for their new event menus now. So the induction ceremonies in New York, now the whole menu is full of Neal Hamilton paintings. Did not want to talk to me when I was there.
Yeah.
Okay? So once again, it's weird how this game is played. See, I have enough body work out there now. It's all over the world now. People see my work around. Now people are talking. And then when they see Santana or Paul McCartney with my artwork, now they look at me differently. So the game changes again.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Anybody has anything else to add before I ask the next question? No? Good? All right. And we're going to open it to the floor soon. Again, to be close to that. So, in the work that you do, writing, art, and media, what are the steps that you take to make sure that what you create is good, or that it impacts, or whatever it is that you're after? Are there steps? Do you spend time figuring things out? What you want to say? Do you double check your work? Do you research? Or do you just throw it out there and see what sticks? Yeah. So let's start with Neal, then Milton, and then Floyd.
Well, mine's got finally fine-tuned now. Like I said, I had a big interest in music anyway. So I knew I was technically proficient, but I came up with a style that was different. That's the first thing. There's a lot of great artists out here. So once again, how do you stand out in the crowd? So I created Paint Out Loud in a vibrant, contemporary pop art type style that did not look like Andy Warhol's on purpose because people were trying to lump me with him. Okay, so it actually stuck, and I kept doing it. And plus, my relationships actually with these artists made it even better. So if I say I'm doing something for Bootsy Collins, I really know Bootsy Collins. You know, you go to the Funkadelics recording studio, they got my art all over the whole studio. So once again, your name starts to grow again. And the more persistent you are, and the more you keep adding to that flame, just keep adding fuel to it, just keep adding fuel to it, never give up. Just don't worry about the money sometimes. Just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. And then before you know it, people are talking. Your name is now a household name. See, once again, most people in art who buy art, to me, are followers. They're not leaders, they're followers. Because they'll say, well, we'll go have a dinner party at Floyd's house, but Floyd has a piece of Daniel's art on the wall. All of us are going to say, well, who's that up there? And you'll say, hey, man, you got to get this Daniel Flores art. Then all of us will go, yeah, I think you're right. And then we'll march down to the gallery and we'll buy it because he said so.
Not because I said so.
No, not that you said. No, that he said so. Because he's giving the dinner party. Okay? He may be a big corporate guy. So when you see these parties, I've seen it 100 times. And I've seen art on the wall, like I said, that's crap. But if this guy says, I spent $1 million on that, then everybody else at the party is like, It's like the emperor's clothes, that story. I'm serious. Art has so many different angles on you almost can't even put this in notes. It changes all the time. It really does. I'm serious. I've watched this 1,000 times, so I'm sitting there like, okay, I get it now. Okay, I need the colorful metaphors. I need some powerful friends behind me, because that's what it really is. You need somebody in power who loves you. That really changes everything. So all the stuff you think you're doing, and plus it's a spiritual thing too, you're going to be where you're supposed to be. So you can't sit there and say, I should have this by this date or this age of my life. That means nothing. There's people who wait their whole lives to get that one hit or that one piece done. They might be 99 years old and die 2 days after. Doesn't matter. Okay? But that's what I have observed.
So when you create your pieces, you're doing it now because you've done it this way. You had a plan on how you wanted your art to look like.
Yes.
To be presented as.
Yes. And then people start to talk for you. It's amazing.
That comes after.
Yeah, when I get on social media, everybody's talking for me. I'll post something and then 500 people start saying something else. They'll take it to another level. Next thing you know, I get a call out of Paris and, man, your work's taking off over here. I'm like, I don't even know anybody in Paris. Okay? But it's weird how it works. So once again, it's about your belief and putting it out there. And then when it starts to stick, it takes a while. One thing I noticed about anybody creative, we didn't know this at first. Anything you come up with today, people are about 5 years behind it. You might have a great idea, and nobody gets it. And you're like, why don't you get this? This is a great idea. And all of a sudden you'll forget about it. 5 years later, all of a sudden you'll see your idea plastered all over TV or somewhere, right? And you'll say, I had that idea 5 years ago. And I didn't trademark it or whatever it took. And then you'll see it, but that's where people are.